Hey, what is going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Unlocking Excellence with your main man, Eric Schwafel. What is going on? Here we give you tips, we give you strategies, we help you make better decisions, shifts, breakthroughs, and all that stuff so that you can keep cool, calm, and collected and unlock excellence in your life every single day. What is going on, y'all? I hope you're having a wonderful day so far. I know I am. Today is a great day in my life. It's my birthday. That's right. I was born at 8/12/89 at 8:31, I think it was, in the evening. So not quite the big 3-2 yet, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there. And I'm excited to be here with you today. I'm really passionate about this next subject. So, without further ado, let's dive into this. Okay. So, one of the things that I've noticed that's helped me over the last couple of weeks, actually months, to lose 27 and a half pounds, I'm like bordering right at the 30, was responsibility and accountability. Just those two things in and of themselves, they helped me so much. And so I've mentioned it a few different times, a program that I started, and the reason why I started it was to get out of my headspace. So let's talk about that real quick. Where was I? I was waking up late. I was waking up, for me, waking up like just 30 to 45 minutes before you have to be somewhere. For me, right now, this isn't for everyone. It's just not enough time, right? I feel really lazy. It's just not enough time to get ready, do the things that I want to do in the morning. And what are the things that I want to do in the morning? It's my morning routine. It's meditate, it's getting to the right mindset, it's read, it's all that kind of good stuff. If I believe I have an episode about that, with what you can do during your morning routine. If not, I'm gonna make one so that you have that. So with that, I wasn't in a good space. I was tired. I was going to bed late. I was trying to wake up too early. I was trying to do too many things too often for too many people. And one of those people weren't myself. One of those people wasn't myself. So I needed to get off of that mind. I needed to get off of that. I needed to get off of that kick. So I did. And I found this program and I started doing it, and I've been doing it for about 109 days now, somewhere in that range. And with that, it's honestly, it's just changed my life. It's helped me get back to where I was mentally, where I felt very strong and I felt very empowered. And that, for me, during that time, that was during my bodybuilding days, right? So I used to competitively bodybuild, shit, like 14, 15 years ago now, it feels like. It was in the beginning of college, so around the 08, 09 area, so 11 years. And during that time, man, I was on point. I remember, like, I had goals, I had a mission. I wouldn't go out. I mean, I would still like hang out with friends, but I wouldn't go out to like the clubs. I wouldn't drink. I wouldn't eat crappy food. I had a mission and I wanted to look the absolute best that I could up on stage. And for the longest time, I didn't have that mission for my own health, too, right? So I had that mission in relationships. I want this to be the best relationship that I can be in. Or I had this one, my business. I want to be able to give and produce results for my clients the best way that I can. And I was really giving to a lot of people, and don't get me wrong, I was still giving to myself in the sense of working out, in the sense of still training and kind of going through the motions on things, but like my head wasn't in it, my heart wasn't in it. So what I did recently is I got my head and my heart in it. Yeah, got my head and my heart in it. We talked about it last time. The farthest space that you will travel is the 17 inches from your head to your heart. There's no doubt about it. And remember, I might have that number wrong. So with that, one thing that I noticed is that I had to take 100% responsibility. I had to be 100% accountable for my results. And I actually recently got a hat from a friend who is in the coaching group I'm in. And the hat says, "If it is to be, it is up to me." So if you heard this on a past podcast, it's always great to have another reminder. There's no way that we can get something once and then it completely solidifies, right? Like, actually, that's not true. We can get it once, but sometimes we have to hear it in several different ways first. So you've got to be 100% at cause for you to be the cause. Do you remember that from a couple of podcasts ago, where instead of being the effect or the affected in your life, you've got to be the cause. It's you and you, baby. That's a 200% relationship, right? You're showing up for you and you're showing up. Yeah, you're showing up for you and you're receiving from you. Okay, think about that. If you show up for you and you give to yourself, here's the other piece of the pie. You've got to receive it. Ooh, receive it with open arms. And you know how many people have problem with receiving? I love to give. Okay, I love to give. I love to give compliments. I'm kind of a touchy guy, so when I know that people are okay with physical contact and being close, I touch more often, touch their hand, touch their shoulder, give hugs, like that kind of thing. I'm pretty sure it's the Latin and the European in me. Like, I'm mostly French. My mom's from overseas, so I'm just like, yeah, but I make sure to respect people's personal space. You can ask my friends too. It's very true. With So with that, let's get back to it. It's a relationship. It's a 200% relationship with you and you. Oh, this is where I was going with that, with the receiving. Give somebody a compliment, and most people, maybe not, because I haven't been around like quote unquote normal people in a long time, because I'm a bit of a hermit. So most people will not accept that compliment, or when they accept it, they won't believe it. And you can tell by their body language. You can tell by their face. You can tell by their tone, maybe the way that you can tell, right? You can see non-verbally that they might not accept it. So with that, if you are one of those people who has difficulty receiving compliments, this is your sign to be able to receive compliments with open arms and with love, right? Because how can you give to yourself? How can the benefit of giving to yourself be accepted if you can't accept it, if you can't receive it? Okay? So what we're looking to do is to facilitate a profound change in your consciousness, in your mind, in your mindset, in your heart, in the way that you operate, all the way down to a soulful and spiritual level, because that's where the change gets permanent, right? Changing a behavior. I can't tell you how many times I've fallen back into old behaviors, bad habits, bad behaviors. And I know you listening to this too, you've had that for a long time as well. You can't tell me at a time that you were choosing to not have quote unquote bad food, and then all of a sudden a stressful day came and you had that bad food. Or you were consistent to working out, and then holy shit, a month pops by and you haven't worked out for that month because life got so busy, right? So what we're doing is we're looking to facilitate profound change all the way down to a deep soulful identity level, baby. That relationship is 100% you and you. Okay, 200% you and you, accepting and giving. So you are responsible for the value. You are responsible for the change that takes place. That's one thing that I've noticed in coaching. I used to do this. I didn't know I was doing this, but I used to do this. I used to create codependent clients, not purposefully, not intentionally, but the way that I coached, the way that I grew up was to do as much for somebody as you could, right? Like, make it as easy as you can on somebody else so they don't have a lot to do. And shit, like that pops up so many different areas in my life, right? So what I noticed is here's a great story. There's a man who was walking down the street one day. He's in New York. And if you know the streets of like the neighborhoods in New York, they have these stoops. They have these, the stairways up to the door. And this man normally doesn't take this route, but he likes to switch up his daily walk so he can see scenery, see different people. And he's walking this way and he sees a homeless man who's on the streets. And he's asking for food and he's hungry. And man says, "Hey, Why don't you go and buy yourself a hotel, and why don't you buy yourself a great meal today? And he gives him $100 bill. And the homeless man is just elated. He's like, oh my goodness, thank you so much. He has all this gratitude for him. Man goes and buys a meal. He stays in the hotel for the evening. Man doesn't walk down the street for another week or so. He walks down the street the next time, a week later, and the homeless man is on that stoop, and he sees him and he says, hey, why don't you go and get yourself a nice meal and some new clothes? So he gives him $100. And now a bit of a pattern forms, right? So he buys himself his food. The homeless man buys himself food. He buys himself some new clothes, and he goes back to that stoop and he waits at that time. And the man actually comes by a little bit earlier. And as he's walking by, the homeless man puts out his hand and he says, I'm ready for my nice meal and some new clothes. And the man who was walking the path, who gave him the $100 the last two times, he says, what are you doing? And he says, I'm waiting for my money. And he says, what makes you think that I'm going to give you money? And he says, well, you gave me $100 the last two times that you walked by. Aren't you going to give me $100 this time? And he says, no, I'm not going to give you $100. I gave you $100 so that you had warm food in your stomach and so that you could take care of yourself. And hopefully that would be a builder of momentum. But I can see that's not what you were looking for. Now, let me just preface this for those that are listening, right? Obviously, not every homeless person is like that. This is for a story in a podcast. So what ends up happening is a reliance is formed, a dependency is formed, an expectation is formed by the homeless man because of what he was given, which then stopped him from taking more action in his life, right? Why? Because he was relying upon somebody else's good nature and good heart and gifts in order to sustain him for the day. Okay. So where in your life does that show up? Where you're waiting for somebody else to come and give you the results that you want, or you're waiting for somebody else to show up for you and be the hero and be the savior. The only savior that is out there, and I believe this as a Christian and as a disciple of Christ, the only savior is Jesus, man. Ain't nobody else is coming to save you. They're too worried about their own problems. Watch people walk down the street. They're all stuck in their heads. Ain't nobody coming to save you. So you got to save yourself. You got to be responsible for the change. You have to be responsible for the quality of your life, the value of your life, what you expect, what your obligations are, everything like that. And this is the beautiful thing, is you have the power to say no. You have the power to choose. If something isn't going the way that you want, then you have the power to say, no, I don't accept that. Let's negotiate. Let's compromise. Now, a lot of people, they get into like the kid mode, right? Like, I can't have it, so I'm going to scream and shout, and I'm going to use my volume of my voice to make people upset and to make them feel bad so they cower underneath me. No, man. Be an adult. Be a philosopher. Be a wise man, right? Like, I go back to the chief of the tribe. It's not about dominating one another. It's about cohabitating with one another. It's about being interdependent. I don't need you. You don't need me, but we like being together. So you know what? I want to continue this relationship. I want to continue whatever it is that we have going on. I'm not cool with what's happening. So we need to discuss it. So I'm cool with it. You're cool with it. And we feel good moving forward, right? It's a win, win, win. You win, I win, we all win. The more that you find that, and the more that that's your focus, the better life is going to be. Better life's going to be. So check this out. I learned this a couple of weeks ago. We take in our unconscious and subconscious mind. It's postulated that we take in over 11 million bits per second. Yes. We're like a computer. We take in 11 million bits per second. And if you think about it, it's true. Think about how much is in our environment and we absorb, right? Now more than ever, it's so important to focus and to know what you're communicating on. My friend, my brother, my sister. If you are focusing on shit things, you will feel like shit. If you focus on things that make you mad, you will get mad. If you focus on things that bring you sadness, you'll get sad. If you focus, you know what's amazing to me? It's so crazy. I guess everybody has their own reasons, but I've learned more and more and more that it seems like women anywhere from like 28 to 43 love those true crime podcasts and those like murder shows about these serial killers. I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing watching these movies and these shows about women who are tortured and mutilated and brutally murdered by these serial killers? I'm sure there's men too, but most of what I hear is of these women or women who are serial killers, right? Just a bunch of death and kill and like, and I understand that it's captivating. I understand some people say like, oh, I want to know what I have to look out for. But man, like I know when I watch a scary movie, especially if it's like a spiritual one, I get freaked out and I don't like feeling that way. If it's suspenseful, I get scared and startled really easily. So like I kind of like being scared, like, oh, that got me. That was pretty good. But with the spiritual stuff, I'm not about it. Or like The Strangers, if you've seen the movie The Strangers, that's real life kind of stuff. I'm not about it, right? So with that, know what you're taking in and know how that's making you feel. When we take in an external event, we delete, we distort, and we generalize. Do you know why? Okay. How many million bits per second did I say we just took in? 11 million bits per second. Okay. 11 million. That's a lot. 11 million. It's huge. It's a huge number. It's one of the biggest numbers that are out there. It's huge. So now more than ever, it's important. It's important to delete. No, now more than ever, it's important to realize how much we're aware of. Okay. Our unconscious mind takes in the 11 million bits per second. We are conscious of 126 bits per second, 7 plus or minus 2. Okay, so we're aware of 133 to 119 bits of information per second out of 11 million. Okay, so there's this research that was done. This research that was done that said we have something like 100,000 thoughts a day. 100,000. And 100,000. And like 80% of those are negative. And we're conscious of like 5 to 10% of those thoughts. And what we're conscious of is negative. So how important is it to feed yourself things that enliven you, bring you light, bring you joy, bring you peace, bring you well-being, because you are bombarded by 11 million bits per second with negativity, with the realness of the world. And based on our interpretations and the way that we think, we compound it. We compound what it means in our head, and we amplify the way that it makes us feel. So if we're feeling bad, we run that movie through our head over and over and over and over and over and over and over, and we make ourselves feel worse. Girl, dude, I am the best at overthinking. I am the best at running movies through my head about how bad shit could really be. I'm really good at that. I've done great at that. I am phenomenal at that. And you know what? That's not something I like being good at. So I decided to change it. So how do you do that? Well, let's talk about this first. The 126 bits, they filter through time, space, energy, matter, memories, decisions, values, beliefs, your attitudes. They cycle through, they filter through the things that you've embodied as a person. They cycle through your emotional state. They cycle through what's called your internal representation, your perception of yourself. They cycle through your physiology. And then that elicits your behavior, or elicits the actions that you take. So remember, we perceive the world as we are. Perception is projection. So the way that we see the world, we're going to act that way. If we see the world as a terrible place, we're going to treat it like it's a terrible thing. If we see the world as a wonderful place, We're going to treat it as a wonderful thing. So there was this study that was done where a new teacher was brought into a classroom, and she was told these are the smartest kids in the state, in the school. And they weren't. They had some of the worst grades. The teacher didn't know that, no, she was new. And that teacher treated each and every student like there was like they were an A+ student. And by the end of the year, the students were A+ students. They did the same thing to another group of students. They told the teacher like these were mid-level students. They weren't, like exceptional students with their studies. And what was observed was the behavior the teacher taught them with, and how the teacher interacted with them was her expectations were that of middle-class students. So the point here is that expectations determine how you will interact with the world. If you think somebody is going to be a shitty person, if you think they're going to be mean or whatever, then you're probably going to treat them with contempt. I like to use the example of the customer service person. If you go to customer service and you're upset and you're saying that I didn't get what I wanted and it's not going well and I'm blah, 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 that customer service person, they're going to do their job, but they're not going to be happy about it, right? It's just not going to be there, right? Like the stories you hear of restaurant people like spitting in food and whatnot, the angry person gets their food spit in. But the person that's sweet, the person that's nice, that's kind, and is like, hey, I really need your assistance with this. I need your help. Are you able to help me? They are met with such a different type of attitude. Like for me, I think we're living in a very exciting time in this world right now with everything that's happening, whether you think it's good or bad. I think it's exciting. I think it's great. And I think that truth and light is emerging from the dark. And then I look and I see so many people living in fear. So many people living in fear. And then I hurt for a little bit and I realized, well, that's their responsibility. That's their choice to live in fear. And the only thing that I can do is give the opportunity, right? So if I project my fear, then I'm going to get more fear, right? But if I project joy, if I project well-being, if I project happiness, if I project the divinity which is within me, then that's how it will be perceived. And the divinity within others will begin to emerge. I know we got a little bit spiritual there, a little bit deep. But that's true for me, right? You can't perceive something unless it's within you. You can't take in more information, but what you can do is you can change your filters. So me, I've shifted. I go out every day and I look for the divine in everyone. And the only way that I've been able to do that is by continuously looking for the divine within myself. Okay, I'll go through that again. You can't take in more information, but what you can do is change how your filters filter. You can change how you filter your information. Okay? Positive thinking, self-talk, different people in your life, being aware of your thoughts, mindfulness, meditation, yoga, tai chi, hiking, walking, being out in the sunlight, reading spiritual books, the Bible. That's a big one. It will help you. You can't perceive something unless it's within you. I really like to reflect people. So when they're angry at me, I like to throw it back like, rah, 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 rah. That's the way they sound to me. And then I'm like, this is the way that you sound. And usually that breaks their state, right? I like to break their state. So then they aren't as angry and they aren't trapped by that energy. I hope you caught that. So go out every day and look for the divine in people. If you look for the goodness in people, the goodness in people will reveal itself to you, hands down. If you look for the goodness in people, the goodness will reveal itself to you, hands down, hands down. With that, perception is projection. So change your perception, change how you perceive yourself, and you will have a new life. You'll create a new version of you. Remember, everything that's outside of you, outside of me, is a projection of something inside of you, inside of me. And unresolved issues will project externally onto others. The other day, I had a former client. They were a former client after the conversation. They projected a lot of their own issues onto me with a higher, more forceful tone. And they were very upset. And I was the outlet that they used, and they took that on. And we discussed that. And I said, was it appropriate for you to project all of this onto me? And they said, no. I said, then why did you do it? Right. And they weren't aware that they did it. They weren't aware. They knew that I was somebody that they could trust. I was the person that they talked to. So be aware too, that your unresolved stuff, the gunk, it's going to project on somebody externally because it's unconscious and you're not aware of it, and it's not integrated within yourself. It's not a part, it's separate from who you think you are. And that's simply not true. It's unconscious. So you bring light to that. You bring consciousness to that. Keep your candle lit. Keep your candle lit. So if you notice that there's this part of you that wants you to do this, but there's this part that doesn't, and there's this part that this and this part that doesn't. That's something called incongruency within oneself. You're not congruent with your unconscious mind. You're not congruent with your subconscious mind. Same thing, right? Unconscious, subconscious. You're not congruent. You need congruency in order to live your best life, the life that you were meant to live. If it is to be, then it is up to me. So the thing that I encourage for you today is to send me a message. Okay. Send me an email, eric@schwefelstrength.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. And if you want to take that unconscious part of you, and you want to bring light to it, and you want to bring consciousness to it, and you want to do it quickly and not have to worry about it ever again, send me a message. I am expanding my coaching practice using NLP to help people rid themselves of procrastination, anger, sadness, hurt, blame, shame, and other issues that have been plaguing them for so long. And it works. And I say that because I went through it, and it works. So with that being said, projection is projection. Perception is projection. We take in 11 million bits per second. We're only aware of 126, 7 plus or minus 2. That's 133 to 119. Your unconscious parts, your unconscious parts will project themselves externally onto others during stressful situations, whether it's for protection or whatever the secondary gain is. You will not be able to control that. It's unconscious. You change your perception of yourself, you change your world, you create a new version of yourself. Go out every day and look for the divine in everyone. Look for the divine in them. And you can only perceive something if it's first in you. I love you. If you got something out of this and you listen this far, share it out, my friend. Please share it out. Let the world know what you got out of this. Put some incentive in there for people to listen, and I'll talk to you soon. You're unstoppable, and make it so undeniable. Make it so undeniable that you are unstoppable. Be unapologetic about it. All right. I'll talk to you later. Peace.